April 29th, 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory boards. So let's recap the week so far, because we are going through very interesting topics, and particularly this week is all about governance, risk, and compliance. Particularly when you're preparing your organization for capital raise. So which is the priority, raising capital or preparing the core of your organization or your organization itself just to be fundable, right? To receive that capital and actually to attract capital. And attract capital sometimes doesn't mean that actually investors are coming to you giving capital. Is when you are going for a raise of capital and the investors and the institutions, they see that your organization is very well prepared to receive that capital, so it's attractive. So on Monday, we tasted how to scale. And yesterday we did a very good, interesting conversation about predictability and how a company is ready for capital. But today we're going to move in the point 3 of our advisory board operating system. And this is about the systems, controls and resilience. And from the asset point of view, is about the governance, risk and compliance, the performances, and the assets themselves. So let's pull the model so we have a visual of what we're talking about. This is a whole operating system. And remember that as an operating system, as an advisory board operating system, this is something that actually works all the time at the same time in your organization. If you say, how that can work all the time at the same time in an organization where we are 50 employees or a headcount of 50 people and around 10 million turned around, well, guess what? All these things are as complex as a large organization at that level. So it doesn't look like, but you have it, because many of these functions, instead of having separate departments, are living in somebody's head with the 2 or 3 functions at the same time. And we had a conversation last night with an organization in the US where the founder grew the company in 7 years from nothing to a very large revenue, about 40 million in the next 5 years. And what happened is now he is absolutely exhausted. He doesn't know what to do. He's desperate not in a bad way. Like I said, I need somebody that help me to run the company now, to the point that she's considering to selling it rather than to structuring the things in a way that actually he can continue being the founder and the big ideas around the business instead of working in the business 3 jobs at the same time. So today we're going to look into something particularly interesting, because this is the feedback that I got from not 1 or 2, so many founders, and you're going to see what they are saying. They're saying, this is old school, we are not interested, we want to raise a capital, we want to keep people to work with us, and we move to the next stage. But guess what? That is where they start to get stuck and spinning the wheels, because this is exactly what they are looking for when they are raising capital. Not them, but actually the companies or the investors or the organizations that have the capital. This is exactly what they're looking for, what we're going to mention today. So your governance, risk, compliance, your infrastructure, your performances, and your assets. So this is part this is a part, as mentioned, that many founders do not enjoy at all, because the words sound heavy, boring, very office-like when they like to do something or they build something very dynamic and agile. So when they hear the words governance, taxation, accounting, legal structure, intellectual property, controls, contracts, risk, reporting, for some founders, this is to hear noise or those words and like this is slowing the business down, but it is not. This is exactly the infrastructure or the structural capacity that will have, or that where you can put a bigger engine in your organization, right? So you work with something that actually was a prototype, put it that way. Now you are going to work with a very, very thorough structured organization that can receive a bigger engine, more horsepower, more torque, etc., etc. So that you can really speed. You can take the G-force when those curves in the road or the track come to play, right? So that is the wrong reading when they say this is slowing down the business, just for the reasons that I mentioned. These things are not here to slow the business down. They are here to stop the business from breaking when it speeds up. So last week, again, I was advising a company and the founder pushed back against that route. And this founder says, this is a cleanup, it's a governance, account validation, and entity mapping is an all worlds thinking. So the founder wants a platform first, a category first, and a market capture first. It's good when you are growing at the point where you are today. And that sounds bold, but bold does not remove the risk. It often increases, right? So if you want to be a platform first, a category first, and a market capture first, yeah, but also it's very risky because actually you have a way to work, a way to do things in the way that you grew to that point. And that's where you have to pass the baton to the next stage of your organization, where that same energy, that same input, that same capacity to grow the business will go into an infrastructure that can stand it. So here's where I come as a board advisor, right? So I put together a rotating international advisory board around the milestones in front of the company. So the organization gets the specialist capability needs in a fraction of the time it takes to hire one executive, without the big consulting overhead and without the talent locking, and with the members swapped every 6 months as the project evolves, because you need, with this kind of evolutions, you need members that are actually specialists in different areas at a different time. That is called sequencing. And you say what the sequencing is what it happens after the next thing, to make sure that the right processes are in place so you can ignite that engine to go at full speed when you need it. So the risk I want to talk about today is the operational noise, right? So operational noise looks like activity, and you will say, what is operational noise? And I mentioned a few things that probably you can hear or you are living today, and I say, is that really giving you the speed and the velocity that you're looking for? Or pretty much is noise? You have more customers? Yes. You have more markets? Probably. More partners? Yes. More contracts, more data, more meetings. And probably one of the biggest operation noises that you're going to start to notice is more meetings. But underneath everything is all that movement. You, as a board member or as executive team, as a founder, you see less and less clear. And you may say, no, I have very clear, I know exactly what I'm doing. Right. But actually, do you realize actually probably you are not getting anywhere and you're spinning your wheels, because your clarity doesn't mean that you're doing that in the right infrastructure that you need to get the traction that you're looking for, right? And you say, all this is fluff words, it's office words, I want to do the things, get me the money, I'm going to do the things that I have to do. Yes, that's very true. But remember again, the capital at certain moments, at certain levels, they start to ask for different things. They are not asking for a great idea, better customers, or the margins. They start to ask for the infrastructure where it is going to live, right? Or how the new home looks like, right? So if you show to the investors a home that is not very, very well structured, painted, I'm not saying that perfect, but actually at least where it makes sense where it's going, unfortunately, you're not going to get it, and it's going to be very hard to get it, right? So let's take a look at 3 problems with this. Number 1 is a weak structure makes good ambition harder to back. And when I say harder to back is when you are raising capital and you don't get it. So following the example from last week, where the fundraising was the priority, not the infrastructure supporting it, the route in this case is very simple. Review your entities, check where the assets are, your intellectual property, your patents, your contracts, your commercial rights seats, where they sit, in which entity, in which geography, in which country, which is the regulated environment of those commercial rights, right? So if you don't have, and you cannot explain this, and you are raising capital, it's not a pitch deck anymore. You have to provide evidence of all these things. And that's where things start to get messy and very difficult, because they say, why you need all this? You are auditing my company when I don't need the audit. I just need the capital to keep moving. Well, guess what? I will mention this again and again and again. It's not about your ideas anymore. It's not about your philosophy. It's not about how you see the world. It's about what the world wants to see to provide the tools that you're looking for, in this case, capital. So decide what moves, what gets licensed, and what stays where it is, right? So some things might move, other things might stay where they are. That is not paperwork for its own sake. It affects many things, and why the capital is difficult to grasp. It affects the taxation, it takes ownerships, affects accounting, governance, investors' perceptions, the future capital raising, because you might have a very difficult but at the end successful round. But guess what? When you go to the next round, probably you will have a even harder and almost impossible way to do it, a capacity to do it, because the first round was already in the wrong structure. And in the long run, if you want long run, I'm not talking about years down the line, I'm talking about 3, 4, 5 years, when you try to sell or you try to bring another partners or equity, etc., that even will go much difficult, because the companies or the partners that potentially can partner with you in terms of equity or shareholders or going public or whatever is the case, they will say, unfortunately, this is not a company that can go that route, and we are not going to get involved here. And that's a problem for some founders that are too enamored of the capital raise, that they cannot see the danger that they are creating, right? And you say, what is the danger? Well, the things I mentioned, but others do see it, right? And the fulfillment of capital raise always seems to be the step ahead of the founder, and no matter how hard they try it, right? So you say, I want this, it seems to be there, I can feel it, I can touch it, but cannot get it. Why? And you start to understand why. It's not about you, it's not about your idea, it's about the structure that you're putting in place is not welcome for the other side. Now, in terms of controls, this is a second thing that is a big problem. So controls are now a board level expectation, right? And I bring the example of the UK. The Financial Conduct Authority Operation Resilience update says that firms had done significant work by March last year. And this is to recover key business services within impact tolerance. What that means? It means actually the rules applies to financial services, but the board lessons goes across all the other organizations. If a company cannot map what keeps the business running, it does not yet have the proper controls, right? And you will say, what does have to do with me? And this is an example in the UK, but actually happened across many other organizations. And I give you an example, not in the UK, in the US. Last night, we have a meeting with a very, very, very well set up organization, 25 years old, very well run, family run, and they are very frustrated. And why they are looking to help? Because they have a very, very large, two large organizations, international companies that they are supplying work for, right? So they struggle now to understand why the next contract have about another 25 pages of things that they have to fulfill to complete the contract, the bind, the tender. And this is the tender. What I mean is just a quoting, because the contract is already signed for a couple of years now, but actually the next order, the purchase order, now is attached. The requirement they have to question. It's very frustrating, because some of these questions that they are asking, they cannot understand. Guess what? Because it's not their compliance requirement, it's the large organization compliance requirement. So they are cascading down to the supply chain what they had to put in paper in terms of requirements, and what I mentioned earlier, which is how's it called? Sorry, I lost my track. Is a company is a controls what the impact tolerances that the large organizations have, and they're cascaded down to the suppliers, right? So It's not that you're doing a bad job, but you're not prepared for these kind of things. And then you have to restructure your organization to be prepared to the requirements of your own customers, right? And the third weak point is cyber attacks. And this is about trust and risk, because it also cybersecurity now, particularly with AI, is a customer risk, is a board risk, as an investor risk, as a value risk. So you will have to have it, regardless of what you're doing, you will have to have very well documented how you address cyber attacks, AI, because I don't know if you see these cases that happened lately. Actually, a case that happened last week, where an organization, a CEO of a company, was sued because he used an OpenAI chatbot, like I don't know which name, ChatGPT, Claude, or one of those, to design a strategy to buy another company. And guess what? That evidence came back to him because actually was in the public, right? So even if you have a subscription with one of these organizations, it's not your own AI, it's not your own database, it's in the public domain and can be shared openly with other people. And they say, yeah, it's anonymous. It is not. You will find out that actually your information, whatever you put there, is already available to other people. Perhaps it doesn't say your name and surname, but if the court asks for it, you will have that disclosed, right? Look what happened in Spain in February. A large organization, electricity supply, was hacked. Bank account numbers, credit card numbers, physical addresses of businesses and families, email addresses, everything had been compromised, right? Phone numbers, etc., etc. And say, what does that have to do with me? It has everything to do with you, because actually now you are a victim of things actually you shouldn't be, right? And what happened there? So what mechanisms you have if an external organization that have this responsibility actually are compromising your own data? What are the mechanisms? So you do have a double factor authentication? Do you have a process to change the password every 90 days, etc., etc.? So as a company, you also have to have these protocols in place and very well documented. Guess what? I speak with 90% of the companies I speak with, none have anything, a remote idea that they have to have something like this in place. But they have, for example, the other things in place. And this is, you can imagine this like systems are like the office keys, yes, the alarms and the fire exits. Nobody gets excited about them. But when something goes wrong, everyone asks why it wasn't sorted earlier. And here's where you have to have all these things in place. And you say, but what have to do this with capital? Have everything to do with capital, because actually these questions are asked in due diligence. So the board has to ask, I guess, a better question. I guess no, they should have a better question. So what must be cleaned up before growth makes the mess harder to fix? Because when you are getting into an evolution of growing, all these things are put in the lowest priority, the task list, the things to do. And then when you have a problem, you say, oh, yeah, we thought about that. Unfortunately, nobody took control or ownership of that. So as a board advisor, I will propose the following things to consider. Now, the first thing is build a structure map, right? So show every entity, show who owns that, where the intellectual property sits, where the contract belongs, which companies, the debt liabilities, tax exposure, reporting duties. So there's no guessing in your organization. So you have all the structure map. The second thing is build an operating map. So show the key processes: sales, onboarding, delivery, support, finance, compliance, data, you name it, escalation, all these things. Then ask a direct question to this. Which of these still depends too much on me as a founder, as an executive team, as a board, right? And prepare what is called the succession. Who is responsible for what, and who is the next in line if somebody is not, or they have to leave the company, or they have a situation where they cannot be there, or sometimes they cannot be there at the same time, right? Because they have two very important meetings in two different locations. you cannot attend two at the same time. So you have to be in one place or the other. So who is going to replace you? How is going to reschedule that for the better timing? And the third thing is risk or map your risks. So list the issues an investor, a buyer, regulator, insurer, or serious partner will find. So accounting gaps, intellectual property gaps, contract gaps, cybersecurity gaps that we mentioned, taxation gaps, reporting gaps, you mentioned. So then decide what to fix in the next 30, 60, or 90 days. So these three things to consider. The first one is a structure map. The second thing is operating map. And the third thing is a risk map. So what is the challenge then? Who helps the board turn a perceived cleanup or something I say, this is boring, I don't need to do it, or you as a founder, into a growth system without building a heavy corporate machine too early, right? So you want to keep lean, you want to move fast, you want to make agile decisions, but you need the infrastructure that help you to deliver that, right? So again, is a structure of the car that can support a bigger engine. So what do you gain working with me? Three things: business outcomes, differentiators, and risk reduction. In terms of business outcomes, I help boards, executive teams, and founders to turn structure, governance, and controls and reporting into a practical operating system. This is the model that you see in front of us now. The company becomes easier to understand, easier to fund, easier to partner with, and easier to protect. In terms of differentiator, I built an international rotating advisory board around the system gaps in front of the company. That may include governance, risk and compliance, taxes, accounting, intellectual property, cybersecurity, legal, investor readiness, reporting, and operating design, just to mention one of the many things that we can do. Depends on where is the state of your company. And in terms of risk reducing, this model reduced the risk of scaling into confusion, right? It also reduced the risk of approaching investors with gaps that undermine the trust. So the company gets specialist support, milestone by milestone, without hiring one expensive executive too early, and then later on understand that these executives have fulfilled their requirements in the past 6 months, and the next 6 months, next year, 2 years, what is this person going to do in your organization, right? So one action you can take home today, and it's doable in 30 minutes or less. Before your next meeting, ask for a one-page system scorecard with only 3 columns: governance, risk and compliance, performances, and assets. And mark each one red, amber, or green, but these colors are represented by which is the evidence for each score. So are you governance, risk, and compliance ready? Red, green, or amber? And which is the evidence for that color? If it's red, because you don't have pretty much anything in terms of governance, risk, and compliance, is amber if there is so something, and is green if you have very well documented everything and you can pull it in 30 minutes or less when it's asked. The same for the performances and the same for the assets. So if you're a founder, an executive team member, or a non-executive in the board, and you want to understand how an international advisory board can help your organization strengthen controls, clean up structure, protect assets, and build the operating spine needed for growth, let's have a 30-minute call so I can understand where you're standing today, what is the situation, what you want to achieve, and how a rotating international advisory board can help you move faster without hiring one permanent executive or paying big consulting overheads. Excellent. So let's pause here for today and reconvene tomorrow, because tomorrow I'll move from systems, the operating spine of the company, into edge, innovation, transformation, the left side of this diagram in front of us. So once the company have a clean setup, the board or you as a founder or the executive team must protect what makes it worth backing. So this is very important, because now you're going to say, this is what we are going to do next. This is your edge, your transformation, why you need the capital. So have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. And